Hey everyone. Now that you have a list of cyber assets that you're going to assess, now that you know what environment you're going to assess, that criticality impact to the mission and vision of the organization, what's next? The next would be let's start assessing. However, there's an interim step here that I just don't want to skip, and that will vary. And the reason I say it's interim and also optional, depending on the size of your organization and even the size of the environment you're trying to assess, that is sampling. So check this out. So sometimes the environment is so large that you cannot do the entire set of assets that you have discovered. Or you're stuck between you either have time, resources, or money, right? So you either have the people, but don't have the money, but have the resources. So you have to pick two out of three. Right? So that is a kind of situation that most of us find ourselves into. What is sampling? So sampling, what we're looking for, and the one I'm going to discuss here with you, is statistically tied to the entire population of cyber assets that you will assess. So there are formulas online and that even there are tools online can facilitate that for you. One is beyond this talk today, but is not that difficult. You can find those. And the reason being is why you need that is statistically tied to total number of assets that you will be assessing because you want to avoid questions that says where you come up with this number, right? You pick out of thin air. And no, there is a statistically correlation with everything that you're going to assess. That's first. Second is that you're going to start inferring from the total. So the results you find that sampling, you can infer that if that simply has the total population of your assets, the total number of your assets also have that same thing, whatever that thing, that finding is. So that is very important. So why even do sampling if you can do everything? First of all, I already discussed and already alluded to is the fact that the environment is large enough and you lack the resources or time or even the money to do one. So in terms of money, of course, sampling is cost effective. Also, the feasibility becomes much easier to do on a small set than a large set of assets. In the timeline, of course, if you have all the time in the world, might as well do it. But none of us have that time. Right? So you have to do and be efficient. So sampling comes right into it. So what kind of sampling should you do? Now that you understand what that formula is, you understand what number of assets that you need to assess. Now, which assets will you assess? So there are a few things that you can do. One is using probability sampling, and a few of them here is randomly selecting one. Might work for you if it's a uniform environment. As a random sampling might work for you if you have an environment where certain devices have higher criticality than others. Some of them are more vulnerable than others. Let's say one is externally exposed, basically in a DMZ, and the other one is internal. So one going to have a higher priority, and random sample might not get the assets you're looking for to assess. The other ones you can do is stratify sampling. That means putting in buckets. For example, these assets are operating systems, these are access databases, these are network device, or these are in DMZ, these are internal, depending. The grouping, you make them. But my preferred method is non-probability sampling. So it's non-probabilistic. Is that purpose sampling? So I understand the environment, I understand the ones that I'm targeting to assess. I'll make sure that those at least are in my sampling plus a lot more. And that makes much easier for you to focus on the critical areas, the trouble systems, the one that, for example, you have a lot of standard exceptions that they cannot follow this, they cannot follow that. Make sure that is part of your purpose sampling when you do that. So now you have the formula that you discover with the statistically tight number to the total population, total assets you have. When you have that number, then you're going to do a sampling. From those numbers, you will pick either using probability or non-probability. Preferably, I use non-probability, and I like to make sure that I do this purpose sampling. I can gather other assets, but I will make sure the ones I'm paying attention to is in there. So this is the interim sort of step that you need to take, depending on the size of your company. Maybe you don't have too many assets. You might as well just do the whole thing. But if you run into the problem of, wow, I have 15,000 assets that I need to do an assessment, I need to do something is smaller in scale, yet that represent everything that I'm trying to assess based on the people that I have here to do the assessment, based on the time that have been provided to me, and based on that $0 budget that is being provided to me to complete this assessment. So sampling is that interim step that you need to make that happen.